talked about a lot of industries that have seen big changes as a result of the pandemic and folks, defaulting to those activities when there's not a lot else to do. We talked to Academy Sports yesterday. We've talked about what we've seen in the golf business. Also been a big resurgence in what we'll call the outdoor recreation space, also maybe known as the hunting business as well. Joining us now to discuss the company's latest quarter is Chris Metz. He's the CEO at Vista Outdoor. Chris, thanks for jumping on this morning. Let's just start with what you've seen over the last several quarters. This time last year, no one really knew what was going to happen next, but certainly, your core consumer was able to resume most of what they wanted to do, and certainly did it even more in 2020. They were able to get out and shoot, go to a range, go hunting at a lot higher clip. Do you expect that kind of momentum to continue as we get into 2021?
Well, Brian, it's good to be on this morning, and we do expect it to continue. Many of your listeners may not be 100% familiar with Vista Outdoor, but we go to market as the largest outdoor recreation products company with about 34 brands in our stable, leading brands that people are familiar with: Camelback, Camp Chef, Bushnell, as well as our hunting and shooting brands. So one of the silver linings of COVID was that people got cabin fever, shelter in place, wanted to get outdoors, and they got outdoors and recreated in a huge way. So, we've got a fiscal year end of 3/31, and year to date, our sales have been up over 25%. The most recent quarter up 35%. So we've certainly participated in the silver lining of people wanting to get outside and recreate.
Chris, 8 million new gun owners last year. Who are these 8 million people? What do they look like, and what are they buying right now from you?
Well, it's a really interesting question. It's one of the neat phenomena that we've seen. So 42% of the 8 million new shooters are women and people of color, many of them trending much younger. So what we saw was a dramatic increase in hunting licenses, over 1 million new hunters that were welcomed into the space. And there's a lot of young folks that have gotten into the farm to table movement over the last decade and have migrated to field to table and filling their freezers with wild game rather than running down to the grocery store. So we see a lot of increase in hunting. Now, we are one of the leaders in a lot of shooting sports, and we saw a lot of clays throwers for sport shooting, paper targets. And so we've seen the consumption of those products dramatically increase as women and new users are participating in ranges at home for a variety of different means.
And Chris, I know we're jumping around a little here, but I want to ask about bikes. That's been something that people have not been able to get really at all during the pandemic. You go to a Dick's and the entire bike section seems like it's always cleaned out. What's the supply bottleneck like for you there as we head into the second summer of this? And have you been able to get more product out the door in the fashion you would like, certainly given where demand is at?
Yeah, our bike sales have been crazy. So we're the leader in bike helmets and accessories. We go to market with Bell and Giro. So not just biking, but skiing as well. And honestly, we just can't produce enough helmets to satisfy the demand, and that's why the shelves are bare. So when we all grew up riding bikes, and a lot of kids nowadays are playing video games inside, but they got outside with parents and relatives and friends and have been biking. So the critical supply chain issue is really just the capacity at all of our facilities to be able to get the raw material in, produce to the demand, and be able to supply that. But we've got a tireless workforce that has been working in many cases 24/7 over the last number of quarters to be able to meet that demand. So hopefully we're catching up on it, but we don't see it slowing down anytime soon.
And Chris, you recently won a contract with the FBI. What's the value on that deal?
Well, we don't share the value of strategic contracts, mostly because the contracts are fixed to a minimum extent, but then they can be extended, they can be changed as they go forward. And for competitive reasons, we don't do that. But we are proud that we support and are the leading ammunition provider to every branch of the U.S.'s armed forces. We're the leading supplier to law enforcement agencies around America today. So we like to believe that we're working hand in glove with our protection folks and keeping America safe.
Chris, it's Julie here. Of course, a lot of other people on the other side of the law can buy ammunition as well, as we have seen both legally and illegally to do things like kill people, as we saw just last night, overnight when there was a mass shooting in Orange, California. Do you think there should be federal background checks for ammunition purchases?
Well, Julie, they've got back in the 80s, they passed the Brady Bill. And the Brady Bill was the first to bring in a national instant background check. So that is in place today. And we've worked with legislators to try to tighten it and try to improve it. But I think our government has done a good job in making sure that they ferret through criminals and people that should not have products to be used in that way. And the unfortunate part is there are deaths every day, and many of them are despicable and many of them are avoidable. But deaths by firearms is a smaller percentage of the overall suicides and deaths that we see on a daily basis.